You are listening to the History on Film podcast. And now here are your hosts, Ross Lennon and Ryan Barr.
Hello, and welcome to another summertime episode of the History on Film podcast. I'm your host, Ross Lennon. I'm joined as always by my close friend and bandmate, Ryan Barr. Ryan Barr, how you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing great. We're heading towards the coast. We have the number 7 record in the country, and we're climbing up the charts. So I'm really excited about that. Yes, we're talking about That Thing You Do, which is one of my. It's definitely in my top 10, definitely in
Me
the top
too.
5 all-time favorite movies.
It was just such a great movie. I loved it from the first time I saw it. And I've mentioned before that I later on would go out and just buy the soundtrack. And to learn that it wasn't a huge success was always kind of puzzling to me. But I
Right.
do think that its success seems to be very much heavily imprinted on millennials. And I don't think
Yeah.
that that would have necessarily showed up then the way that it shows up now, like in meme culture and all this sort of like the ways that we communicate, replicating or like reiterating how influential this movie was to a lot of people like us. I do think maybe you and I are like, when I say we're too young for Empire Records, I think like maybe if we were 3 years older, we would feel
Right.
about Empire Records the way that we feel about this movie instead. Where the film kind of asks the question, what if the Beatles had never taken off? Like, what if the Beatles were a one-hit wonder?
Right.
And that it's sort of one of the things that Tom Hanks has said is like Tom Hanks is a huge Beatles fan, and he always sort of he's said in interviews like this movie was kind of me thinking like, what if the Beatles had never become the Beatles?
Right. Yeah. I mean, for his first run at directing and writing, and he's written. Of course, Tom Hanks has written and directed plenty of things since this. I mean, for the first shot out of the gate, I think this was a great
It's yeah, it's a great job. I
effort.
mean,
Yeah,
sort of the flow is, like he definitely gives the impression that he was very comfortable behind the camera. There's a
right.
lot. It's a very kinetic, very energetic film.
Hmm.
I think you kind of have to be if you're telling a story about a rock and roll band, of any decade. But just the camera feels very youthful, because you've got
Right,
kids jumping around, you've got things going on in the foreground, in the background, and it just, like it's just a great job. The writing is very clever. All of the characters feel you can say like, oh, the characters are sort of cliches or sort of tropes, or several of the characters like are either inspired by real people or are just sort of like, oh, well, this is the, director. This is the guy who takes his art too seriously. This is the guy who's just a goof around, kind of chucklehead. But they all
right,
feel genuine. They all feel real, and you're invested in them. I think is the best thing
right,
that you can say about this movie. That in a lot of ways could have just been like, oh, a stock this kind of movie. Like
right.
it could
Well,
very easily be a Netflix kind of movie where
mhm,
it's just like, all right, I see what beats they're trying to hit. Done by someone else, it could have been extremely bland. But it's
right,
not. It's great.
right. I mean, it's one of those things where like not only was it a great writing and directing effort by Tom Hanks, but every actor understood their assignment,
Oh
and
yeah.
no one is phoning it in. Everyone kind of knows who their character is, but they give their characters a lot of life. They give their characters a lot of they feel real. These
Yeah.
are not, like you said, they're not cliches, they're not tropes. They are fitting, or they are meeting a type of we need the too serious songwriter, we need the goof around, we need the guy that's mature enough and serious enough to keep it all together, but also knows how to have fun. And then you have the guy that's along for the ride, which is TV player, right? You have like every band, I feel like every band movie, every biopic of every band that's ever existed that they have a biopic made, even if that isn't the real personality of the people in the band in real life, that is the characterization that they're kind of put into. You know,
Right. The filmmaking conventions of telling a music biopic sort of force people into those roles, whether that's historically accurate or not.
right.
And I think, we've talked about before sort of this most recent cycle of music biopics that become sort of these hagiographies to Spotify
Hmm.
playlists,
Right.
really do that, to the nth degree of like forcing this kind of very rigid storytelling structure even though subjects of this stories like Elton John and Bob Marley, it's like their lives are so much more interesting than what gets put on the screen,
Right.
because you can't tell a family-friendly movie that way.
I'm gonna be honest, that movie does nothing for me.
Okay.
Um, I like all the actors in it,
Hmm.
but I just, I just can never, for some reason, I can never just get into that movie. You
Okay.
know, Jeff Daniels is
Maybe.
great in it.
Hmm.
Reese Witherspoon's great in it.
Maybe through revisiting, you'll have a new appreciation of it. It's got Spider-Man in it. It's
I
got
know,
Don Knotts in it.
I know. Okay.
All right, we got to
Um,
get back on track.
we've completely derailed this episode. We're gonna just scrap all of this and
Mhm.
start over again from the top.
Hello,
Uh,
and let's go back to
yeah,
Erie,
let's
Pennsylvania.
let's go. Yeah,
We
yeah,
love this movie, so we're doing, ourselves an injustice by not talking about it, but it's
right,
also
right. We're
summer,
getting
so who cares?
yeah.
Maybe
It's
people
our
like this. We don't know.
It's our summer hours episode.
Hmm.
They're going to be like this. Just you're going to have to deal with
And another great thing about Mystery Men, yeah.
it. We should do an episode on Mystery
Hell
Men.
yes, we should.
Every song you hear in this movie is written for the film. Now there's a lot of sound alike mu- music. So like it opens up with a song that has a very Kingston Trio, Peter Paul and Mary type of vibe to it. That was written for the movie. Later when the band is touring uh, with the record label, they're doing like a tour of state fairs. There's kind of a Dusty Springfield, I guess he's supposed to be like a Bobby Darin, I guess would kind of describe him because he's a little bit older at that point. So I think he's supposed to be like a guy from the 50s that was like a big deal. So like a Bobby Darin type. And then
Yeah,
there's
a lot of different kind of archetypal figures.
yeah, and there's also a group called the Charlenes, I believe is their name, and they're supposed to be like a one of like the one of the many girl, mostly black pop groups that what's his face produced. He had the crazy hair. Phil
Yeah.
Spector. They're just standing for like that Motown, Phil Spector
Wall of
power girl
Sound,
group.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, Wall of Sound girl group. And when I found that out, I thought that was great. That every one of those songs you hear that's on the soundtrack too. It's like Jurassic Park, spare no expense, right? They did every type of music you think of, plus the 5 or 6 songs you hear from the Wonders are all written for the movie. And when I found that out, it kind of blew my mind because there's some great songs. I think the Dusty Springfield stand-in, I think her name's like Diane Dane or something like that
Hmm.
in the film. That's a very Dusty Springfield type of song. It's very not early Dusty Springfield, it's more late 60s Dusty Springfield. It's more you don't have to say I love you, Dusty Springfield, but it sounds just like her, and it sounds like when I first heard, it, I'm like, oh, that's like another Dusty Springfield song, right? And then the Charlenes, they have a great sound. They definitely sound like a lost Phil Spector cut somewhere that was lost on the you know studio floor somewhere. And most of the music was written by, do you know who?
Adam Schlesinger?
Yes.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, so I
I'm
know
going.
he entered a
I'm going.
competition to write the title song.
Yes.
And then the late frontman of Fountains of Wayne.
Yes. Yep.
And I didn't know how involved he was in all of the other stuff. Once you hear that song, if you're familiar with Fountains of Wayne, it becomes so incredibly apparent, that it's like
Right.
that it's his DNA in that song.
Right. His fingerprints are all over it.
But it's so good. Yeah. I don't know if I asked you this on the show or not before, but it's like the song is great. It feels true to the songs of that time. Like
Hmm.
it feels very much like a 60s song, even though it's by a contemporary artist.
Right.
And it feels like a song that would be a number one hit. Like
Right.
it doesn't seem like they sort of cut and paste something with modern sensibilities or just a song that's kind of hokey. Like it feels to me like, yeah, I believe that this is a number one song.
You just heard a clip from the most recent episode of the History on Film podcast. For more of this episode and access to all our episodes, search for the History on Film podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Pandora. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel here on YouTube. You can also check out our Discord server, follow us on Blue Sky and Instagram, and please consider supporting us on Patreon. Links in the description. Thanks for listening.